Hello, welcome to this edition of Momentum. I'm your host, Robert Green, Associate Dean with the Bagley College of Engineering. I'm happy to be joined today in the studio with Miss Amy Barton. Miss Barton is the program coordinator of our Shackouls Technical Communications program. Miss Barton, welcome.
Thank you, good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you back. It's been a while since you've been with us. So why don't you remind us, how did you come to be at Mississippi State and get interested in professional and technical communications?
Well, thank you, Robert. Well, I have been a part of the Shackouls Technical Communication program for about 22 years, so I've been here a while. My background is actually in English. I have English degrees, and when I was getting my master's here at State about 25 years ago, I realized that I was more drawn to technical writing. I actually think it can be very creative. I was fascinated with the way that you can craft a sentence or craft a paragraph. There's so many different ways to say the same thing, and just the way that you construct a sentence or a paragraph or a section or incorporate a graphic, it can change the reader's interpretation, and then you can adjust for different types of readers. So I almost consider that an art, and it's something that I really enjoy teaching students. And what I found was, in the English department, they did have a concentration in technical writing. And so I pursued that, and I was very excited at the opportunity to join the Bagley College of Engineering and join this program where we get to teach my favorite thing, which is that sentence construction, that paragraph, that document construction, and that art to students. And I've been the coordinator of the program for about 7 years now.
I think it's interesting you said there are different ways to interpret a sentence, and of course in engineering terms, we don't want to have too much interpretation.
That's true.
We want to make sure it's interpreted the correct way, so I imagine that presents some challenges.
It can. It's very subjective, and that's something that's different for students if they're looking for a right or wrong answer like they might get on a math test. A lot of times there's a gradient, and it could be that they write a sentence that's grammatically correct, but it's a little bit clunky, or it's a little bit informal. And so we have to talk about style, we have to talk about crispness and clarity and conciseness, and that can be a challenge for engineering students. But I also find that they appreciate efficiency. It's something that they are practicing in their coursework as they design something. They wouldn't design something with a whole bunch of unnecessary parts. And so part of the challenge for me is to frame it in terms of engineering design. Designing a piece of communication is very much the same. Instead of a user, you're thinking of your target audience, and you're not giving them any more than they need. You're not making their job any more difficult. You're thinking about an efficient process for them and understanding the message.
Yeah. Well, for many years, I guess ever since you've been with the program, you've taught this course called Technical Writing. Mm-hmm. But it's always been more than writing. And this year we changed the name from Technical Writing to Professional Communications. Can you tell us a little bit more about the name change and how it's really more than just a name change?
Absolutely. I think that this was a long time coming. Our course has always been about more than technical writing. It's really more of preparing students for the writing and communication expectations that they're going to face in the workplace. And so we have always taught job application materials. We've had a heavy presentation component where we teach oral presentation skills and slide design. We teach infographic design. We have a big unit on engineering ethics, and a lot of emphasis on small group communication and effective teamwork. And with all of that, we thought technical writing wasn't really the best representation of what we do. In fact, on the first day of class, my habit was just to start with, well, what's this class all about? And you might be surprised to learn, thinking about the name, that it's not just technical writing. Yeah. And so I was excited about this change. I know it's something that the two of us had talked about for a while, because I really do think professional communication for engineers better conveys what we're already doing and what I think is the best part of our course. It's kind of a holistic communication preparation course.
Now, for a long time, we've mainly been focused on undergraduate students, but you've recently added a course for graduate students. Tell us about that.
Exactly. It's GE 6513, Engineering, Writing, and Presenting. And so far, I'm only teaching it in the summer. It's a 10-week summer class just because of lack of time during the regular fall and spring semesters. But it's something I love doing. It's something I look forward to. The graduate students actually, they kind of design their own course experience. They choose their assignments. It could be a thesis or dissertation chapter. It could be an article, manuscript that they're working on, hoping to publish. It could be a literature review, some part of a larger document. And they take it in installments throughout the summer. And so they submit it as a first draft, and we meet and we go over personalized feedback, and then they submit it as a final draft. And then they do the same thing all over again with another document or another chapter, another installment. And the goal is throughout the summer term, they feel like they've gotten a really personalized analysis of their communication, their strengths, areas where they could improve. So they're not only working on documents from a practical perspective to get them to publishable quality, but they're also hopefully learning more about how to continue improving. And we also do presentations. We do a conference length presentation, a 15 to 20 minute presentation, and we do a 3-minute thesis. Okay. So they have to take what they would present for the conference version of the presentation and distill it down to 3 minutes in one slide, which is an interesting challenge for them. And so it's something I think is really useful. Hopefully it's something that the students will find value in long term.
So you and I have been talking over the last several months about engineers and their creativity and how they want to do things. So I'm really excited about this new magazine, Conduit, that we're getting very close to. Tell us how that's working and what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, Conduit is something that I'm very excited about. Like you say, we have both been very excited, anticipating getting this first issue out. Conduit is our literary magazine. It's a literary magazine for the Bagley College of Engineering, our students, our faculty, our staff, alumni, friends. And like you say, it's really about sharing our creativity. Engineers can be very creative, sometimes more creative than they realize. Sometimes creativity is part of their job, and sometimes creativity is an interesting outlet for them. And so I would love it if our college as a whole could think about, okay, what kinds of creative works could I share? It could be artwork, it could be a poem, it could be song lyrics, it could be an essay, so many different types of works. And then to submit them, to share them with others. And I hope that as we tell our stories to each other, it helps us to build a stronger sense of community and also to appreciate all these hidden talents that our fellow colleagues and students might have.
Well, I'm excited to read what our students, and I guess faculty and staff as well, have to say. When can we expect that issue to come out?
Very soon. So we're hoping that at the end of the spring semester, in the next few weeks, we'll have our first issue out. This first issue is going to be digital, so it will go out far and wide via email. And there will also be information, a QR code, if anyone would like to submit something for the next installment. I hope to publish every semester, so our next one should be in the fall. And I hope that people will start thinking about what could they contribute, what could they share. And I think people will be really interested to look through this first issue and see all the wide range of submissions. In fact, we have submissions that we're publishing from all 8 departments, engineering departments, which was exciting to me.
Yeah, and I understand students in our Shackouls Honors College are helping pull this together.
Yes, so that's something that we are very interested in. We have an honors section of our course, Professional Communication for Engineers, and we're having the honor students work on this magazine. I think it'll be an interesting perspective for them to contribute, but then also to see the editing process, the publishing process as well. Yeah.
So for our viewers, I guess just keep an eye on our social media and webpage. And
watch out for it. It's Conduit. It'll be coming to an inbox near you.
Great. So I know another part, you touched on it briefly, is engineering ethics, and you focus a lot on that in professional communications. I know that's probably a surprise to a lot of students. How does engineering ethics fit in with what you're doing and within the engineering program overall?
I think our role is very important in introducing engineering ethics to these students, and sometimes they already are familiar with engineering ethics and case studies from other classes that they've taken, and our role in that case is to deepen that understanding that they've already developed. For us, engineering ethics is it defines the engineer as a professional. And one thing that I like to talk to students about is the history of engineering codes of ethics. They change all the time, they evolve. They started in the 1800s. Engineering societies started to develop about the same time that engineering was recognized as a learned profession. It wasn't just something that you would have an apprenticeship and then you would watch someone and then you would take over the trade. It began to be taught in universities, and at that time these professional societies were developed. And so they started to think, okay, well, how can we develop codes of conduct or ethics for our members to uphold these expectations? And the first codes, you might be surprised to know, did not contain anything about human health, safety, and welfare. It was more about professional courtesy, not trying to spread rumors about your colleagues, not trying to steal work from another colleague, to prioritize your employer's interests. And then there were some high-profile scandals that happened. One in the 1930s with the ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers. 2 members in the 1930s in California became whistleblowers. They found that a 3rd member was taking bribes for water contracts. And strangely enough, the 2 whistleblowers, that 3rd person was found guilty in a court. But the 2 whistleblowers were expelled from ASCE because they turned in a fellow member. And so at that point, the codes were rethought, they were redeveloped. And over the years, we have seen a higher priority on human health, safety, and welfare. We've seen in the 70s and 80s a shift toward the environment and linking the environment and sustainability with human health, safety, and welfare. And I try to tell students that these codes become a way to define professional behavior for engineers. And what we're seeing, I think, the trend is that engineers are becoming more connected to their communities. So it's an ethical obligation to understand the community in which you practice, their needs, their vulnerabilities, their strengths. And so I really want to help students see, how can I do that? How can I understand the community and their needs and think about that in my designs?
Okay. Well, we have about 30 seconds left, so there's probably not enough time to do this, but I know you've had an interest and done some work in artificial intelligence. So
yes.
About 30 seconds, how does artificial intelligence fit in with writing?
30 seconds for artificial intelligence. I think our obligation is to ensure that it's a support, that it's something that we use as an aid to make our lives easier, but it's not a replacement for our own thinking. And so we have to be really cautious to understand the strengths and the weaknesses and to practice our own critical thinking, which is really the main benefit of writing. It really sharpens our critical thinking.
Yeah, true, yeah. I think we may need to have you back and maybe spend the next episode just talking about AI in writing. But that's all the time we have today. I want to thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Momentum.